Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Meet a Member interview today. My name is Luke Bader. I am Director of Membership and Programs at the FAIR Institute, and I am very excited to have our speaker here today with us, Luis Valenzuela. He is the Director of Data Governance and Data Loss Prevention at InComm Payments. Luis, thank you very much for being here, for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you, Luke, for the opportunity. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. So I'm going to just jump right into the interview here and just ask a little bit about yourself and your career, specifically with FAIR and the FAIR Institute. You've been involved, you've been a member for a number of years now. You've been involved, you recently just spoke at FAIR Conference 2024 in October in Washington, D.C. But how did you get to this point? How did you first hear about us and everything?
Yes, so I initially got aware of risk quantification and FAIR a number of years ago when I was in the middle of my pursuit of learning as much as I can, technical management, anything related to my career to grow.
Mhm.
I was aware of this thing called risk quantification and FAIR. I looked into it, I learned how it works. Exciting because I'm very much in line with numbers and data and making decisions based on data, things like that.
Mhm.
But at that point, I was not in a position where I had access to the data that is needed to feed the model and make those decisions. It was more of I was kind of in between having stood up a whole security program, so understanding how it works. But at this point, I was not in that kind of role necessarily. It was more of a project management for an IT group. So I couldn't go that far in actually doing things that are actionable. It wasn't until a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years, 4 years ago, when I joined this company and I started having a more direct relationship with cybersecurity operations that I was now getting more data, real data from our organization. And about a year or two ago, my boss, the CISO, expressed interest on us getting into cyber quantification, which for me was great news because I'm all on board. And 2 weeks later, I got back to him with a whole proposal. I did some additional study kind of to catch up with the latest and greatest. And at that point, we started this journey of implementing cyber risk quantification within our group, at least figuring out, okay, how viable is this? How can we make it work? And long story short, at this point, I have been able to embed risk quantification in a lot of what I do within my team. We're responsible for data governance, data protection. So a lot of what we do in terms of planning, identification of risk, how we remediate, and how we interface with other parts of the business. We've been using the language, the numbers, the different classifications, and we've been able to put something together that is not large scale yet, but it's growing in terms of how people are receiving it.
Absolutely, that's wonderful to hear that it's going successfully. So, as you're continuing to grow this, and in the wins that you've had already, what are the biggest benefits that you've seen quantification? Give me an example or two of the big benefits that you see quantification bringing to your organization.
The benefit is to have the both the satisfaction, the peace of mind, even from a due diligence standpoint, the peace of mind that we have made the decisions that we made based on data,
Hmm.
or at least the most accurate data that we have. And something that I often mention is risk quantification is not about having perfect data to make perfect decisions. It's about having better data with less unknowns that we had before. And therefore, even if the decision is not perfect, it's certainly much better than red, green, yellow based type of decisions. So in a lot of these cases, we can show, okay, this is why we recommend not investing in this control or investing in this other control or working on this system first. That has helped us a lot to prioritize and concentrate our efforts in the right place at the right time.
I think it's really important that you're bringing it up. It's not always maybe perfect data, and it's not always precise, but it's accurate and it's better that
Yes.
after as you're running through this process, and it's gotten you to a better point. I think a lot of times, some folks who are new to this come in and they're a little They're a little nervous because they don't want to, they just don't know if they have enough information and enough data. But it sounds like what you're saying is yes, you do. Once you are able to learn the process of how to go out and collect it and analyze it, you actually have a lot more than you think. Is that a fair
Yes,
assessment?
absolutely. Yes. I like the example. One of the experts in the area brought the example of you need to make a decision based on how much an elephant weighs. Well, if you have worked at a circus or in animal related jobs, you might know the exact answer or very close. But if somebody like me who barely has seen a live elephant, I have no idea. So the uncertainty is large. But if we have to make a decision, at least we can narrow it down. Is it heavier than a truck or lighter than a cat? And you can start narrowing down. And I think that's what risk quantification helps us to do, to narrow down the uncertainty to levels that are more actionable in real life. And as we mature in that process and we include expert opinions and other data, we can get more to that point.
Absolutely. So, kind of next in the timeline here. So, you've collected the data, you've run the analysis, you're ready to make the decision. Another big topic, a very big area of interest that we see FAIR and quantification being helpful is in the communicating that decision to the business side, to the board, to executive leadership. What are some tips and tricks of the things that you've done well that you've seen work well in communicating these results to the business side of the organization that you can share with folks?
One of the best benefits that I have gotten, especially because my responsibility is over data,
Hmm.
I am able to gather information from available resources, open sources like the DVR, the breach investigation, or the cost of a breach report from IBM, or the CrowdStrike report. All of these reports that are actually well known by the C-level suite or leaders in the organization. And I can extrapolate some data from there to show them, for instance, that based on recent fees that have been charged to companies that had breaches and all of this historical data, we can very fairly, again, going down to the narrowing down of those unknowns, we have a good certainty that depending on the type of records that are breached, they might cost ultimately, when you include all of the fees, the legal fees, the lawsuits, it might cost you between $50 and $500, average $150, $170, right? Again, we don't have to be too exact, just that number. Based on that, then I can talk about, let's say we need to patch these two servers. And the IT group says we don't have time to patch, we have to patch one. Well, I can, based on the data that is contained in that server, I can say because we have X amount of records, the amount of dollars that are at risk for the organization is much bigger on this one than this other one that has less, right? So based on that kind of information, I can assess not only the value of the data and the risk, but I can communicate to them which one we should go after first and why, without having to tell them about Monte Carlo simulations or different models and how the spreadsheet works. They don't have to know that, but if they ask, I can provide that information.
Right, exactly. So you're just bottom lining it and right into the dollars and cents and the financial language of it all, which is
Correct.
the key benefit that we talked about. Great, wonderful to hear. The work that you're doing is awesome. We know that quantification is an important part of solving these larger problems. What else in your industry at your organization are other key issues facing larger risk management that you're seeing right now in the space?
I think one of the main issues is around PR, maybe, socialization of the concept. And perhaps that is because when I started being aware of FAIR 5, 10, like 7 years ago, it was known, and still it is, as something very geeky, very numbers, very modeling. The only people who like math and like statistics understand it. So we cannot put it as, and we leave it for those people, right? And we need to be able to find a way to translate that data into day-to-day business,
Right.
again, without having to go too deep into the information. And I think part of the problem is that we as practitioners get excited with this kind of thing. We like math, we like models, we like all of these things that are not attractive for everybody, right?
Mhm.
So maybe we concentrate too much in that language, and we to just be able to translate and tell the right story with the right pieces of data to make it more palatable for people. If we can do that, then I think we can address one of the biggest problems that I personally see, which is, for instance, third-party risk management or risk management in general, where companies are still used to this high, low, medium type of qualification of risks. There's a better way. We just need to make it friendlier to show that it's actually of benefit. Because to be honest, I have never heard of somebody who, after understanding and using both models, say no, the color code is better, because it's not. It just takes the familiarization of how it works and the benefits of it.
Absolutely. Well, you just described the mission of the Fair Institute and what we're all trying to do. So,
Yeah.
absolutely agree with what you're saying, and continuing to have conversations like this and promote the work that people like you and other members are doing to show what is possible and talk about the benefits of this. And yes, it sometimes takes a little bit of time and you have to get some folks on board. You have to learn. It can be a little bit of a culture shift, but it is much better to start using fair and quantification to make decisions for your organization. So wonderful to hear that things are going well, and I appreciate you sharing your story. Before I let you go, I want to just kind of ask a little bit about you personally. When you're not doing quantification, when you're not collecting data, all of this, what keeps you busy outside of work? What do you like to do for fun?
I like learning, so I like learning technology. So I try to stay up to date with tech stuff, advancements, and how tools work. Even if they are not necessarily connected to my role, my current responsibilities. So I play a lot of with open source tools and just trying to figure out how things work. But I also like mountain biking. That's something I do a couple of times a week or over the weekends. I just like it because it keeps me active. I'm outside.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of resistance work without impacting too much.
yeah.
Thankfully, I haven't fallen, which some people that I know have gotten hurt pretty bad. I've been lucky in that area, but
No, no, we
yeah,
don't want
that's
that.
that. I do a lot of that, and I work with my wife in other initiatives, helping foster care uh, kids or kids from going into foster care. We enjoy that as well. So yeah, I have a variety of activities that I do in my free time.
That's wonderful to hear. Incredible work that you're doing there as well. Well, Luis, I've really appreciated this conversation so much. I really thank you very much for your time. Folks, Luis was on a case study panel at FairCon, a panorama panel, excuse me. And so you can see that session and hear more about your work, as well as some others who are on the session with you in the resource library of the Fair Institute. The recording and their slides from Fair Conference are posted up there now. So you can dive a little bit more into his content and with others and see all the resources up there. So, Luis, appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for coming on and look forward to hearing the rest of the great work that you're doing at your organization.
Yeah, thank you, Luke.
Thank you.